So my name is Caren Osten, and I'm actually going to, at the end of the program, I'm going to share my contact information with you, my website information. If you all would like to check out my website, if you subscribe to my monthly newsletter, you'll get a gift from me. So I'll make sure that you get that information. But basically, I am a certified positive psychology life coach and writer. And what is positive psychology? For those of you that aren't familiar, positive psychology is the scientific study of optimal well-being. Okay, so it's all based in research, and it's an arm of psychology that basically, rather than focusing on disease and anxiety and depression, the research focuses on what makes people happy and successful. And so the studies that are done are looking at how can we ground this research and devise tools and strategies to make our lives and our communities and institutions be more successful and happier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. And it'll take me a second to get into presenter view. There we go. So hopefully you can see my screen. So I call this presentation Renovating the Nest, because my take is that the nest is not empty when your kids leave, because you're still in it. Maybe you are in it alone as a single parent, or you have a partner and you and your partner are still in the nest. So I don't know why it's been turned an empty nest. I like to talk about renovating this nest, and we are still in it. And also, I like to call us free birds, because I think that has a more positive spin than empty nest. So for the sake of marketing, we use the term empty nester. So a little bit about me. I have, in terms of being an empty nester, I have 3 kids. They're 26, 24, and about to turn 20. So 2 years ago, I became an official free bird. And at that time, I went through a hard adjustment, and I really had to adjust to this lack of noise. My son had, was always either playing video games or watching sports on TV, or he had, friends running in and out. And all of a sudden, my house was really quiet all the time, because my 2 older kids, our daughters, live and work in New York City. So while we saw them plenty, they weren't living at home. So it was difficult adjustment at first, but I used so many of the tools that we're going to talk about tonight, which really helped me not only adjust to the experience, but embrace so many things that I was sort of afraid of or anxious about. So I hope that resonates for you. So this is just a cartoon I love, makes me laugh. So, of course, the kid on the first day of school doesn't want to go, and then there is that college kid going, and the mother is hanging onto the tree, right? Things really change. A lot of people I do know have great anxiety about their youngest child leaving home. And, there are ways we can get through it and make it even better. So in this image, what do you think the mother or father bird is doing? Are they pushing this baby chick bird out of the nest? Sort of a question. Or is he just flying because he wants to fly? Sort of a rhetorical question. But, again, the nest really, it can't be empty because we're still in it. And yes, it's a period of transition. And yes, emotions can run the spectrum from depression to elation. And some some of us really do struggle to adapt to a new normal. So, the question is, what can we do? What can we do? So in this idea of renovating the nest, of course, physical space is a great thing to start with. When you have a more room in your house, you may be able to create that home office you never were able to have, or a gym, or a yoga studio, or an art room. Taking back some of the space to use for perhaps new hobbies that you have more time for. Or, one of the rooms in my house that I never used that much was the living room, because there was glass doors that went from the living room into the family room, where there was this big TV, where we have a TV, and my son was often watching sports. So if I was in the living room, I could hear through the glass doors, and so I never really wanted to hang out there. And when he went off to college, I made that a really sacred space for myself in the afternoons, when he would normally be home and there was always noise. I started to make that my solace, and I would light candles, and I would drink tea, and I would work in the living room or read. And so this idea of sort of recreating new areas for physical space. I think the more challenging part for many of us is the emotional space. So I have a column on Psychology Today. I write a blog, and these are a few of the articles. I put the headlines here just for you to see that, these are things that I have been writing about, because not only am I experiencing them myself, but many of my friends are as well. And there's so much to sort of think about in terms of how can we make this next phase an opportunity to, as I said, rearrange our nest emotionally and physically, rather than view it as empty. So that's just the last article, actually called "Whose Nest Is It Anyway?" is about when the kids come back home and preparing for, that first winter vacation or summer break, when they come back home, and some of the things that you have to think about, like reminding them that they're not a guest in the house, and maybe introducing them to some of the physical changes that you've made with the space. So there are a bunch of nuggets that I'm going to go through. And again, these are all grounded in positive psychology and positive psychology research. So nugget number one is we are more in control of our happiness than we think. So a researcher named Sonia Lyubomirsky proposed that in her book called The How of Happiness, that 50% of our happiness is determined by our genetics. Okay, this 50% is completely out of our control. 10% is determined by our life circumstances. So the socioeconomic status that we are born into, the family makeup, that is largely out of our control. The remaining 40% of our happiness is determined by our thoughts and actions and attitudes. In other words, 40% is entirely within our control. So the good news is that we are co-creators of our reality, and our happiness is largely based on our choices. This is not about being happy all the time. I want to emphasize that being human includes both ups and downs, opportunities and challenges. And when we accept emotions such as fear and sadness and anxiety as natural, we are more likely to overcome them. But it is important to recognize that happiness is a choice. So there is recent research that was conducted by Barbara Fredrickson at UNC Chapel Hill, and her team at the lab found that the most resilient people have a capacity to acknowledge negative emotions and simultaneously experience the positive ones. So we have so many questions and so much uncertainty, and that can sort of cause us to vacillate between many, many emotions. And that's natural, that's normal. So knowing that we can hold both, feel anger and fear and sadness, for example, and at the same time, we can look for the good. We can use gratitude. We can look for things that inspire us. We can promote connections. So it's really about holding space for both the good and the bad. So at every moment in your life, you have a choice. All those choices add up to a lifetime. So it's this idea of what kind of life do you want for yourself? And to live the life that you want, you first have to become mindful that you have a choice. So I'd like to share a story about a woman. Her name is Mrs. Jones, and she's a 92-year-old, petite, well-poised, proud lady. And each morning, she was fully dressed by 8 o'clock with her hair fashionably coiffed and her makeup applied, even though she was legally blind. Her husband of 70 years recently passed away, making the move to a nursing home necessary. So after many hours of patiently waiting in the lobby of the nursing home, she smiled sweetly when told that her room was ready. And as she maneuvered her walker to the elevator, an aide started to give her a visual description of her very tiny room. And he talked about it, that it has eyelet curtains that had been hung on her window. And she immediately cut him off and said, "I love it." And he said, "Mrs. Jones, you haven't even seen the room, just wait." And she said, "That doesn't have anything to do with it. Happiness is something you decide on ahead of time. Whether I like my room or not doesn't depend on how the furniture is arranged. It's how I arrange my mind. I already decided to love it. It's a decision I make every morning when I wake up. I have a choice, and I can spend the day in bed recounting the difficulty I have with the parts of my body that no longer work, or I can get out of bed and be thankful for the ones that do." So at every moment in your life, you have a choice. And again, all these choices add up to a lifetime. So that's going to come up again. So I love this cartoon. Where did you find that? I've been searching for it everywhere, looking for happiness, right? And the other person, or whatever he is, says, "I created it myself." So you create happiness by making choices that serve you better, and by making choices of activities that inspire you, and making choices of relationships that bring out your best self. So, nugget number 2, you can become happier, but it takes daily practice and effort. So there's been a lot of research done on positive emotions, which are these micro moments of joy and gratitude and happiness and love and connection. And they are said to be the tiny engines of flourishing. So when we open up to these positive emotions, it shifts our neurochemistry and fuels our capacity to do better in harder times. Very important. But evolutionary psychologists have studied our natural negativity bias. So our brains are wired with a negativity bias because when we were living thousands of years ago, we were always on alert for danger. So it may have been a saber-toothed tiger lurking around the corner, or a berry that we found, wondering, whether or not it's poisonous. We had these reasons for always feeling as if danger was going to come. Well, our stressors are totally different, right? We're no longer worrying about poisonous berries and saber-toothed tigers, but our brains are still wired with a negativity bias. So it's this instinct in us that makes negative experiences seem more significant than they really are. So we're wired to focus more on the negatives than the positives. And we often look for what's wrong, or we notice what's missing. And there's a saying that the bad stuff is like Velcro and the good stuff is like Teflon, slides right off. So we can counteract that negativity bias by opening up to positivity. So we're going to have a look at the way Jessica begins her day.
Look, I can be a cert. Now my whole house is great. I can do anything good. I like my school. I like anything. I like my dad. I like my cousins. I like my aunts. I like my Allisons. I like my moms. I like my sisters. I like my dad. I like my hair. I like my haircuts. I like my pajamas. I like my stuff. I like my rooms. I like my whole house. My whole house is great. I can do anything good. Yeah. I can do anything good. Better than anyone. Better than anyone.
I love when they show that potty at the end. Wouldn't it be nice to wake up like Jessica? That might be a little bit of an extreme, but good things do happen every day. And as Maya Angelou said, today is a wonderful day. I've never seen this one before. So bringing this perspective, this frame of thinking about what is before us, that good things can happen every day, right, is helping us shift our focus from the negative things to the positive ones. And we begin to immerse ourselves in good events, thinking in more detail about the quality of events, because we start looking for them. So there's a simple practice that can lead to a great change and thriving, and especially when we are going through a transition. And in this case, for some, it's kids going off to college, and for others, it may be other transitions. And the practice is 3 good things. So each night before you go to bed, to reflect on your day and to write down 3 things that went well for you during your day and why they made you feel good. So it doesn't need to be anything humongous. It could be the sweetness of a strawberry you bit into. It could be the flavor of a robust cup of coffee. It could be the sunshine and the warmth and how it feels on your face, and playing with a child, having a great conversation with someone. And of course, my favorite, the greeting that you get from your animal, which is usually just filled with glee. So, this practice, and then again, of course, it could be something more profound. Perhaps a relative has had a healthy baby, or someone got a promotion that they've been waiting for, right? So there is no right way to look at this. It's just 3 things that went well for you today. And so this is another practice, which is a great conversation starter. And or you could even text it to your kids or your grandkids or your college kids, or when you sit down to dinner, just to ask, what was the best moment of your day? So if you make a practice of answering this question, a few things will happen. Number 1, every single day has a best moment. Even the darkest days have a best moment, right? So it's relative. So every single day has a best moment. And when you make a practice out of answering this question, you will begin to look for best moments, right? You may start to notice things in your life that you may otherwise have taken for granted. And third, your neurochemistry will change. It takes a minimum of 30 days to begin the formation of a new habit. And if we open ourselves up to more positive experiences and recognize them, we build new neural pathways. And that this practice elevates hope and optimism and appreciation. So I'm wondering if in the chat box, anybody would like to enter or answer, respond, what was the best moment of your day today? I will share mine. I swam laps in an outdoor pool today, and the best moment of my day was when my lap swimming was over. I was really wanting to be done with my swim, so that was the best moment of my day. Is there anybody that would like to share the best moment of their day? Veronica, are you there?
I'm here. I don't have anybody typing yet, but I can share mine.
Yeah, I would love to hear yours. Yeah, for sure.
I think the best moment of my day was talking about the upcoming Jewish holidays with my son in the car. He's 5, so his understanding is limited. And those conversations are always very funny because the parts that he's grasped are usually bread related. So we spent a lot of time talking about how much challah he was going to get to eat and how excited he was.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
And for the patrons, you can also put them in the Q&A wherever it's comfortable for you. I'm monitoring both of them.
Okay. Well, people want to respond, they can. If not, that's okay. I highly recommend this as a practice. As I said, something you can text to kids or relatives or, dinner table conversation. So we'll carry on.
We did get one. I'm sorry.
Okay, no, that's great.
Caren just said walking my dog and spending lots of time outside. So I'd have to agree with it. It was a beautiful day. You could be outside today.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I'm not with my dog right now, and for sure, he probably would have been part of the best moment of my day too. But yeah, that's great. I mean, huge benefits that come from our relationships with our pets. There's a lot to be gained from that. And time in nature, and tons of research on the boost in well-being and positivity that we get from that. So those are great things to do. So let's talk about prioritizing positivity. So remember I said that 40% is really up to us, right, in terms of planning our days and making choices that serve us well and choosing time for things that boost our positivity. So we can plan our days so that we have moments and experiences that bring us meaning and pleasure. And in the business, we call these positivity boosters. So these are behaviors and activities that are proven to improve your mood. And this is the fuel that sustains us. It could be spending time with a friend. It could be playing an instrument or taking a bath or spending time in nature or dancing, listening to music, reading books, watching a movie, anything that brings you happiness or a boost in mood. So, what I do with my coaching clients is I have them create their own positivity booster list. So they would answer some of these questions of, the things that you look forward to do and the relationships that make you smile or comfort you, etc. Music you love and hobbies you enjoy. And I have them make a list of those things. And everyone has their own unique list of positivity boosters. So I ask them to either put it by their bed or put it into their phone as a list in their phone. And when they feel like they maybe need a boost of positivity or a reminder of, who would I like to call to get a boost? Or, what are the things that I like to do? I can't think of anything top of mind. And you look at the list and you say, okay, today I'm going to go out into nature. Or today I'm going to call an old friend. So my question to you was, what are 3 things you would put on your positivity booster list? So those would be just things you like to do with your free time, or people that you like to connect with. Perhaps it's grandchildren, perhaps it's speaking with college-age kids, getting a text. I know anytime I got a text from my children when they were away at school, that was definitely something that boosted my positivity. So if anybody would like to answer what kinds of things you like to do and you'd put on your positivity booster list, please feel free to enter it in the Q&A or in the chat box. And if not, maybe you can think about this and create your own positivity booster list after the program. So nugget number 3 is being in the present moment is the happiest way to be. So have you ever gotten to the bottom of a page in a book or a magazine or a newspaper, and you get to the bottom and you have no idea what you just read? Or have you ever been in a conversation with someone and they're talking to you and you're looking at them in the eyes, but you're thinking about, maybe what you're going to have for lunch, or, the errands you have to run? Well, you're not alone if you do. Most people do. And Harvard did a study and found that nearly 47% of the time, we are not paying attention to what we're doing, right? So that means that about half of our time is spent thinking about something other than what we're doing. And it's not only that, those who were more distracted reported in the study lower levels of happiness. So by regularly paying attention to what we're doing, which is a practice known as mindfulness, we can cultivate better awareness of the present moment and possibly be happier as a result. So in 2012, the NIH database, right, that's the National Institute of Health, the database had just over 500 scientific studies on mindfulness. Currently, in 2020, the database has close to 10,000 scientific studies on mindfulness, right? So in 8 years, it's gone from 500 to 10,000. Why? Why mindfulness now? Well, the answer is that we are living in an age where there's an epidemic of anxiety and depression. Anxiety disorders are the most common mental illness in the United States. And according to a recent survey done by the Census Bureau along with the CDC, 30% of Americans are showing symptoms of anxiety, depression, or both. That number has increased from before the pandemic to during the pandemic. So if we don't need mindfulness now, I don't know when. So what is going on? Well, for one, external stimuli, like this thing, are pulling our attention in many different directions. And we are training our brain to be in a state of continual partial attention. So as our interconnectedness grows as a result of technology, TV news, the 24-hour news cycle, and all the hours that we spend on Zoom, we need to learn ways to manage our time and attention. Because for many of us, we don't have an off switch. Another of my favorites, cartoons. What is that? Oh, just my mind. Because that's often what our minds look like. So what is mindfulness? As I mentioned, the awareness that arises from paying attention on purpose in the present moment without judgment is the definition given by Dr. Jon Kabat-Zinn. In simple terms, it's being aware of what's happening while it's happening and accepting what's happening with no judgment. So I love this cartoon because this human is walking and his mind is in a million places, just like the previous cartoon. This dog is just simply noticing what's in front of him in the present moment, or her, right? So the trees, the sun, exactly what's there. So, like so many tools of positive psychology, this awareness to bring our attention to the present moment in a particular way is something we can cultivate. So that's really good. So mindfulness brings our awareness to the present moment, where we are not distracted by ruminations from the past and worries about the future. So we are paying attention to the present moment. Awareness of what's happening as it's happening. And when we practice mindfulness, we take ourselves off of autopilot and we create space. When we're aware of things, we create space to think. We create space to breathe, space between our thoughts and our reactions, and space to listen. So some of the benefits of mindfulness, focus and attention stability, all increases in emotional regulation, increase in empathy and self-compassion, which we are soon to talk about, body awareness, improved sleep, which is very important, and of course, an increase in mental health and well-being. Mindfulness definitely helps reduce stress, anxiety, and depression. So we can cultivate all of these benefits by practicing mindfulness. So there's a growing body of research across the scientific community, and it shows that when we practice mindfulness, it's a form of mental training. So if we do it on a consistent basis, we're retraining our brain to focus on the present moment. So as I mentioned earlier, we're creating new neural pathways. So it's incredible because it means that our brain's wiring is not fixed, it's adaptable. And this is called neuroplasticity. When that our ability of our brains to rewire. So mindfulness is a practice, like learning an instrument or working out. So rather than lifting weights to build up your biceps, or you can think of it as lifting weights for your brain. So one of the simplest tools for practicing mindfulness is bringing our awareness to the breath. So the breath is always with us. And when we bring our awareness to our breath, that we allow our breath to regulate our emotions rather than let our emotions regulate our breath. So to give you an example, if you are feeling anxious, you may feel like you're short of breath because that is the body's nervous system kicking into gear from the anxiety. But if you allow the breath to regulate your emotion, it triggers a relaxation response. So if you concentrate on the breath and you slowly breathe in and out, you begin to reduce the anxiety and you trigger, as I said, this relaxation response. So I like to give this analogy of we are the boat. Think of a boat on the water, on the sea. We are the boat, and the water is life. And sometimes life is calm and things are just smooth and our boat is just hanging out and everything's fine. Other times there's a lot of turbulence in the water and it's pushing our boat left and right and who knows where. Our anchor is our breath. So when you feel the turbulence of life pushing you around, you can bring your attention to your breath and use it as your anchor. It stabilizes your attention. It increases your awareness of what's happening, what you're thinking in your body. So it's a very important tool. And there's a beautiful quote by Viktor Frankl, who was a psychiatrist from Vienna and a Holocaust survivor who wrote Man's Search for Meaning. And he wrote, between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our freedom. So the very essence of mindfulness is the ability to pause and create that space so we can then choose wisely how we want to go into the next moment. When we take the time to pay attention and bring our awareness to that space, we also see beauty where we maybe didn't notice it. We can see growth and transformation and change where before we may have felt incapable of those possibilities. So the goal with mindfulness is really to create this space where you can respond rather than react. So this is a tool that I think is very helpful, which I use with clients a lot as well. And it's simply the acronym STOP. And so in the time it takes us to breathe in and breathe out, we gain perspective. We can gain perspective. So if you use this tool, you would stop what you're doing, right? If you start to feel that your boat is being pushed around and maybe you're feeling like you're getting anxious or stressed or angry or sad, just stop what you're doing, take a breath or two. Observe. What am I feeling in my body? What emotions are rising? What am I thinking? Just accepting it without judging it, just noticing. And then P, proceeding with what do I need right now? Do I need to take action with something? Do I need to do something to comfort myself? So what will serve me best? So taking this pause to let the mind rest in the present moment. This is one of life's greatest luxuries, and it costs nothing at all. And because it's our breath and it's always with us, it's available anytime, anywhere. So mindfulness, it can be practiced anywhere. So you can practice mindfulness while you're brushing your teeth, thinking about the motion of your hand, the bristles against the teeth, the flavor, what's happening in your mouth, on your lips. Similarly, with a cup of tea, perhaps it's, what does the heat feel like on my hands? What's the aroma, the steam, right? It's just wakening up your senses to awareness. Mindful eating, whether it's a piece of chocolate, which, just thinking about the flavor, the taste, the texture, how it melts in your mouth. We spend so much time during our meals just, chewing and swallowing, not bringing mindfulness to the colors that are on the plate or the crunchiness or the softness of things that we're eating. So again, you can build this mindfulness muscle in many different ways. So the question to ask you all is, to which activity will you bring mindful awareness today? It's the evening, I realize that. So maybe it would be tomorrow. Maybe there's something that you will do that you can take some time to pause and allow yourself to focus on what's happening, just observing, right? And making that space. So it's a great practice. So moving on to nugget number 4, which is make time for social connections. So some of you may be aware there is a very famous study that's been going on for almost 8 decades. It's called the Harvard Grant Study, and it began in 1936. It was a longitudinal study on human development, and it started with 268 male sophomores and continued to interview future generations and about many, many aspects of their lives, their health, their work, their connections and relationships. So one of the researchers named George Valent, he was the head researcher on the grant study for 3 decades. And he said that after $20 million, that his key takeaway was a 5-word conclusion. And that is, happiness is love, full stop. So the importance of connections, of relationships, it is key to our well-being. It is the number 1 predictor of our happiness, is the time that we spend with people that we care about and who care about us. In June of this year, 56% of people over the age of 50 said that they sometimes or often felt isolated from others. And that's more than double the 27% who felt that way in a similar poll in 2018. In times like these, social connections are it's always the most important in terms of being an indicator of your health and well-being. And especially now, to make sure that we stay connected. It's not about quantity, it is about quality. And so it doesn't matter if it's 1 or 2 or 3 people that you stay connected with, but just having that in your life is very important. So, of course, you can join a community with common interests. For empty nesters, it's a wonderful time to reconnect. Many people now have their college kids studying remotely online. I have one of those myself. So he is not away at school. And quite frankly, after 2 years of an empty nest, I'm a little disappointed because I really grew to enjoy some of the spontaneity and the fun that my husband and I were having. And, it cuts into that a little bit because I don't want to just ditch my kid all the time. But it is really important, and thinking about bringing play and fun back into our romantic lives can also really rekindle connection. So there was a study done at UC Berkeley that found that women reported greater satisfaction with their marriages once their kids left home. And it wasn't about having more time that brought about the benefit. Women simply enjoyed their time with their spouses more once their kids gone. And I just gave you, my own example. Personally, I adore my kids and I adore my college-age son, but it was fun to just be spontaneous. Unfortunately, we're not traveling now, but hopefully soon. So, in addition, these beneficial social connections it's a time to think about, who are the people in your social circle, your inner circle, those that you feel connected to, and how do you nurture these relationships? Can you focus on the good? Do you express your gratitude, which is something we're going to get into in a little bit. So in our relationships, oftentimes when we're listening, we're talking to someone and we're listening to them, but a lot of times we're preparing a response. So we're not actually listening because we're really focused on what we're going to answer with. Other times we may be judging what they're saying rather than just truly listening. And other times we're just spacing out. As I mentioned earlier, our minds are wandering and we're thinking about, our errands or, what we're going to have for lunch. So there, this practice of listening mindfully, listening actively, and also with empathy. So this empathy is this ability to care about others and to consider and understand what they may be thinking or why they may be behaving the way they are. And when we empathize with people, we become less judgmental and less frustrated and disappointed. We develop patience because we are trying to be in their shoes and see what they're seeing and to understand why they're showing up the way they are. So this is a very important way to strengthen some of the bonds with those closest to us. So I'm going to give you a little taste of listening with empathy.
It's just, there's all this pressure, and sometimes it feels like it's right up on me, and I can just feel it, like literally feel it in my head, and it's relentless, and I don't know if it's going to stop. I mean, that's the thing that scares me the most, is that I don't know if it's ever going to stop.
Yeah. Well, you do have a nail in your head.
It is not about the nail.
Are you sure? Because, I'll bet if we got that out of there...
Stop trying to fix it.
No, I'm not trying to fix it. I'm just pointing out that maybe the nail is causing...
You always do this. You always try to fix things when what I really need is for you to just listen.
See, I don't think that is what you need. I think what you need is to get the nail
See,
out.
you're not even listening now.
Okay, fine. I will listen. Fine.
It's just... Sometimes it's like there's this achy... I don't know what it is. And I'm not sleeping very well at all. And all my sweaters are snagged. All of them.
That sounds really hard.
It is. Thank you. Ow!
Oh, come on. If you would just...
Don't
try to sleep me.
Oh, I love a little touch of humor. So this is just a beautiful quote that I'd like to share. Time decides who you meet in your life. Your heart decides who you want in your life. And your behavior decides who stays in your life. So some food for thought. So nugget number 5 is make time for gratitude every day. So gratitude is taking the time to appreciate and savor the good things in life. And there's been a ton of research that reveals that there's enormous power in gratitude, in simply counting our blessings. And it's also said to be the mother of all virtues. And regular expressions of gratitude promote optimism and better health and greater satisfaction with life and even better sleep. So I'm going to tell you a story about this guy right here. You can see there's an arrow pointing at him, and he is playing a violin. So this guy came to the Washington, D.C. metro station, one of the stations, on a cold January morning, and he started to play the violin. It was rush hour. It was early in the morning, and he played 6 Bach pieces lasting about 45 minutes. And during that time, since it was rush hour, it was estimated that over 1,000 people went through the station. So about 3 minutes went by, and a middle-aged guy noticed there was a musician playing, and he slowed his pace, and he stopped for a few seconds. And then he hurried to meet his schedule. And 1 minute later, the violinist received his first dollar tip. A woman threw the money into the violin case, and without stopping, she just kept on walking. A few minutes after that, someone leaned against the wall to listen to him, But the man looked at his watch and started to walk again. The one who paid the most attention was a 3-year-old boy, and his mother tagged him along and tried to hurry him, but this little boy just kept trying to stop and look at the violinist. In the 45 minutes that the musician played, only 6 people stopped and stayed for a little while. About 20 people gave him money, but continued to walk at their normal pace, and he collected a total of $32. When he finished playing, he put his violin away, silence took over, and no one noticed that he'd stopped playing. No one applauded, and no one knew that the violinist was the most famous violinist, or one of the most famous violinists in the world, Joshua Bell. And Joshua Bell was playing one of the most intricate pieces of music ever written on a violin worth $3.5 million. And 2 days previously to playing in the subway, he had sold out a concert at a theater in Boston where the average seat was $100. So this is a real story. And Joshua Bell playing incognito in the metro station was organized by the Washington Post as part of a social experiment. And one of the possible conclusions from this experiment could be, if we do not have a moment to stop and listen to one of the best musicians in the world playing the best music ever written, how many other things are we missing? Right? So it's this idea of slowing down, of stopping, of savoring, of being grateful for beauty that's right in front of us. So there's a very amazing gratitude practice, and I've been keeping a gratitude journal for a little bit over 5 years. And so the way it works is that each night I write in my journal about 3 things from that day for which I feel grateful. And this makes for a wonderful resource to turn to on a day when feeling gratitude may be just a little bit harder to access. Sometimes I turn back the pages and I see previous years and things that I felt grateful for. And they bring an incredible smile to my heart, and smile to my face and warmth to my heart. So, we are often working now for some payoff in the future, but it's really all about savoring the present moment and savoring, the most important ingredients of happiness. As I mentioned, these moments of joy and happiness and gratitude and connection. This is what brings more happiness to our lives and what strengthens our psychological immune system, which helps us cope with stress and trauma and negative experiences. And there's this great quote: "It's not happy people who are thankful, it's thankful people who are happy." And there's another really powerful practice, and it's to write a gratitude letter. So expressing gratitude strengthens relationships, but sometimes our thanks can be fleeting and superficial. So are you aware of someone in your life, perhaps it was a mentor or a teacher, a relative or a friend, who has positively impacted you at some point in your life, but perhaps you never properly thanked them? And you can, if there is someone, you can write a letter to express your gratitude in a really thoughtful, deliberate way, and ideally deliver the letter, which adds an extra boost to the benefit of and strength of the well-being. This is my Aunt Yvonne. She is 91 now. She was younger when this photo was taken. And I wrote her a gratitude letter, and I had the honor of reading it to her and experiencing the boost in well-being that she experienced, and also the boost in happiness and well-being that I experienced from watching her soak in all the things that I shared. And the idea is not to make it super long, just a page. And again, if you can deliver in person, great. That's probably a lot more difficult right now, as we know. So, pop it in the mail or even email. But it's an exercise that really has a lot of power. And the research suggests that while there, as I said, benefits in writing the letter, the delivery, the reading it, and there's just can be a long period of boost from that experience. And I heard a story not that long ago, actually, about a woman who came to this country from Mexico 25 years ago, and she was in a small town in California. She found her way to the library and eventually to the children's library. She spoke no English. And there was a very lovely librarian who would bring her children's books. And little by little, she learned English with this librarian's help through looking at the books. And 20 years later, with good English under her belt, she wrote a letter of gratitude to the librarian to share, her thanks. So very powerful stuff. So who are you particularly grateful for in your life, and to whom could you or will you write a letter of gratitude? And this is a great quote from the Dalai Lama, in particular for those of us that are parents. Give the ones you love wings to fly, roots to come back, and reasons to stay. This is probably one of the best quotes that I can think of as a parent, because this is what you want. You want your children to go off into the world and have them fly from the nest. But you're still in the nest, and so you have the roots there, and you can still nurture those roots and give them reasons to come back. Okay, so moving along here, nugget number 6 is being kind to others makes us happier. So everything about giving is a no-brainer. And there is just so much good that comes from being kind to others. It makes us feel good. Many of us don't realize that oftentimes, again, the giver gets more of a boost in positivity than the receiver. But giving changes the way we see ourselves and can help us build a self-image of being compassionate and empathetic. And interestingly, altruistic acts of kindness light up the same pleasure centers in the brain as food and sex. So volunteering elicits dopamine, right? It's this feel-good hormone, and it reinforces the behavior, wanting us to do more. So just thinking about acts of kindness that you can commit, they can be small, smiling at a stranger, holding a door open for someone, inviting a new friend to have lunch, or perhaps offering someone to help them carry a heavy load of bags. You can also just ask someone, what was the best moment of your day, and engage in conversation, building a social connection. So moving on to number 7, which is healthy practices matter a lot. So we're going to start with our strengths. And this is a practice that I like to call the doorway practice. So hence, you see a lot of different doors here. And thinking about what are our strengths of character? When we're at our best, thinking of those words. You could even make a list, if you like, when I'm at my best, am I supportive? Am I curious? Am I loving, compassionate, patient, caring, nurturing, grateful, a good listener, funny, right? Whatever your strengths are when you're at your best. And to make a list, and before you enter, whatever door you're going to enter, and it could be a virtual door, so it could be a Zoom session, it could be a phone call, it could be when you're walking into your child's school, or when you're walking into a meeting, real door or virtual. And just to pause and take a breath and ask yourself as you enter that virtual doorway, what strengths do I want to bring as I enter this room or situation? What strengths do I want to call up that if I'm walking into my house after a busy day and I know I'm going to see my kids or my grandchildren, stopping and thinking, okay, I got stuck in bad traffic and that was awful. What do I want to bring into this next room, right? So just thinking about how do I want to show up, and using that mindful pause to think about how you want to show up as your best possible self. So this is very, very important, and self-compassion. And I want to emphasize that self-care is not selfish. In fact, you can't effectively take care of other people if you don't take care of yourself. So we know the airline safety instructions, right? Put on your oxygen mask first, and then you can help your children or others in need. And yet, so many of us struggle with the notion of self-care, and we're unable to think about and bring awareness to what we need physically and emotionally. So self-compassion is this idea that you can actually be kind to yourself and accept your own faults, and you get deep emotional benefits as a result. One of my favorite personal stories to share is when I was in college, my parents went to Florida and they invited me to come down for a vacation and spend some time with them. And they were already in Florida, so I'm from New York. So I went to the airport, and when I checked in with my bag, I was told that I was at the wrong airport. I was meant to fly from Kennedy, but I was at LaGuardia. And I wasn't going to make my flight, and this is quite a number of years ago, so it wasn't as quick to make changes. So I went to the payphone, and I called my parents, collect, and my father answered the phone. And I was hysterically crying, and I told him, oh my God, I went to the wrong airport, I messed up, I can't believe it. And he said, congratulations, you messed up. And in that moment, and I love this story so much because in that moment, my father gave me permission to be human, which is to be imperfect. He gave me permission to be imperfect and congratulated me for messing up. And I never forgot it because I guess he thought that I was like too hard on myself. And so by just sharing that response, it changed my life and changed the way that I treat myself when I mess up. And I give myself permission to be human and be imperfect, because we all are. So we do this for other people. The question is, can we do it for ourselves? So there's a lot of research that's been done, most of it by Dr. Kristen Neff. And she talks about 3 components of self-compassion. And the first is mindfulness. So it's this awareness of what you're feeling in the present moment. So, for example, I was feeling tense sadness and disappointment in myself when I missed my flight because I went to the wrong airport. And so mindfulness is the first component. And the second element is common humanity, right? Knowing that difficulties are a part of life. I'm not the only one who struggled, or I'm not the only one that's missed their flight, right? This is just part of shared humanity. And the third element is self-kindness, a gesture or a phrase, something that we may be able to comfort ourselves with. You know, what do I need right now? Maybe I need to connect with someone for comfort, or maybe I need to place my hand over my heart, or spend time in nature, or sip a cup of tea, or just breathe, or be in a quiet place. So it's this idea of taking care of yourself. And having self-compassion just means that you honor and accept your humanness. So the next time you feel the urge to be tough on yourself for something you said or you did or you feel, maybe you can think about these three elements: mindfulness and common humanity and self-kindness, and treat yourself with as much care as you would treat someone you love who's in emotional pain. So Kristen Neff really emphasizes this effort and this practice to treat yourself as you would treat a good friend. So moving on to some other healthy practices, Martha Graham, the famous choreographer and dancer, said that all that is important in this one moment is movement. Make the moment important, vital, and worth living. Do not let it slip away unnoticed and unused. Movement is medicine for your emotional and physical health. And literally, the American Psychological Association now includes exercise as a proven treatment for depression. We know that it generates endorphins, which are chemical messengers or neurotransmitters that are our body's natural painkillers. And they relieve pain and relieve stress, and thus make us feel more calm and happier. So regular exercise is really important and probably the most effective instant happiness booster of all. And good nutrition, important part of leading a healthy lifestyle, being aware of how your body feels and your energy level. Is it different after you eat a healthier meal versus a less healthy one, or eating junk food? And as I mentioned earlier, this practice of mindful eating and noticing what your food looks like and what the texture is and what the taste is, right? So bringing mindfulness to your meals. And rest, which is, there's so much research about the incredible importance of rest and getting sleep. And there's some research out that the average woman between the age of 30 and 60 sleeps only 6 hours and 41 minutes a night during the work week. The National Sleep Foundation, however, recommends 7 to 9 hours of sleep for adults. But there's 42% of Americans get less than 7 hours. So it's really important to get 8 hours of sleep a night, and it brings you more vitality and optimism and good health. And it's really important for our health and well-being. Also helps us focus. It helps with our metabolism and our weight, our mood, and our heart health. So establishing a healthy nightly routine is really important. Okay, moving towards the final stretch, nugget number 8. So challenge brings resilience. Resilience is the ability to navigate adversity and to grow in the face of challenges and struggles that life inevitably throws our way. So thinking about how we bounce back, right? It's not a question of if we fall, it's when we fall. And how will we get up? And each time we fall, we bring that experience of getting up to the next time. So it gets easier and easier. But it's important to have what's called a growth mindset, knowing that you can grow. So people with a fixed mindset believe that their basic qualities, such as intelligence and talents, are fixed traits. They don't seek to develop themselves because they think that talent alone leads to success. But they're wrong. Brain science has proven otherwise. People with a growth mindset believe that they can improve their intelligence and talents with effort. So by applying themselves, they think that they can get better, and they see brains and talent as just the starting point, and they can build on that with hard work and determination. So growth mindset is just simply the power of believing you can improve. And when you push yourself out of your comfort zone, you transform the meaning of effort and difficulty. When my son left for college and I had my first semester in that living room and the quiet, I decided that I was going to challenge myself. And so I took up the ukulele. It is still a challenge 2 years later, but I do it. And I've come a long way, and it has taken a lot of effort. And I practice, and I do lessons online. And it was another addition to my new transition without my kids at home and seeing, can I push myself out of my comfort zone? Because when you push yourself out of your comfort zone, that's where the magic happens. And we embrace our strengths and we feel empowered that we can. So while I am never going to serenade any of you with the ukulele or my family, I know that I can do it, and I can pick up something new, and I can learn, right? So when we practice outside of our comfort zone, failure and effort are not a sign that you're not good at it. Rather, they're a sign that you're getting better at it. So it's a really good sort of thing to think about, getting out of your comfort zone, trying something new. And similarly, we're talking about resilience here, right? So rather than let loss and stress or loneliness or failure overwhelm you, you can use them as learning experiences and stepping stones to a better future, right? So you know the expression, when life hands you a lemon, make lemonade. So that's a good one to think about in terms of resilience. And nugget number 9 is put down your smartphone. We are seeing from studies that people who don't charge their phones in their bedroom are significantly happier than those who do. See if you can put your phone to bed in another room. And if you need it for the alarm, get an alarm clock. Putting your phone to bed in a separate room and not seeing it until the morning will help you calm your body, calm your mind. And similarly, instead of reaching for your phone all day long and reading your emails, experts recommend batching your emails. So taking specific times during the day when you might read your emails. So perhaps, you read your emails at 9, at 12, at 3, at 8, whatever it is, but rather than going constantly. So being able to separate from your phone when you go outside, when you walk your dog. I mean, sometimes, obviously, listening to a podcast or catching up with someone, it's just a convenient time to do it. But trying to take times in your day to separate from your smartphone can be very liberating. According to research by Pew, 60% of working parents report feeling always rushed, and 80% of working adults with or without children would like to have more time to spend with loved ones. Giving yourself the gift of more time is a quick and convenient way to a happier life. The author Anne Lamott wrote, "Almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including you." So think about all the things that you could do as you put your device down, and think about renovating your nest, both physically inside the house and emotionally in terms of prioritizing your positivity and focusing on the good, and working on your social connections, pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and bringing positivity boosters into your life, whether it's music or games or exercise. And knowing that we will all adapt to our transitions. It's just a question of how we frame it and our ability to be in the present moment and to use our mindfulness practice to help us stay there. So that is the end of my slides, and I think we have a few minutes left. I'm going to put my information in the chat box. It's on this slide, but I'm going to put it also in the chat box. If you would like to check out my website, if you subscribe to my newsletter, which I send about once a month, you can do that and you will get a free gift from me.